warm welcome to you as you join us on today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuluku. How's your week been and how's business going? Between Monday the 22nd and Tuesday the 23rd of January 2018, the Federal Inland Revenue Service held its 2018 Management and Stakeholders Retreat in Lagos. We told you part of the story of that agenda-setting retreat on the last episode of Tax Matters. And believe us, there's so much more to tell. And so you can expect more from that retreat in subsequent episodes of the program. But trust us, we snatched some time on the sidelines of the retreat to talk to Mr. Babatunde Fowler, the number one taxman in Nigeria, and we dare say the number one taxman in Africa. Mr. Fowler is the Executive Chairman, Federal Revenue Service, the Chairman, Joint Tax Board of Nigeria, President, African Tax Administration Forum, ATAF, and the first Vice Chairman, United Nations Body of Experts on Tax Matters. Mr. Fowler, for you. Enjoy it. In 2017, the FRSC collected 4 trillion naira in taxes. How were you able to achieve this?
Well, for one, with the cooperation of all stakeholders, everyone working together, we were able to achieve what we did.
4 trillion naira. What are your priorities for 2018?
2018 is to continue to build on what we have done so far, to continue to use technology to provide effective and efficient tax services to all taxpayers, and also to be able to account for that revenue collected.
You set a target of 6.7 trillion, or is it the government that set it for you? That's a very tall one. From 4 trillion, you want to collect 6.7 trillion. What do you expect from the public? What kind of support do you expect from the legislature, from the public, and from the government?
Well, let's first of all talk about the senators and the members of the House of Representatives. I expect that when we take issues to them, or when they receive issues that border on tax administration, they'll have a better understanding of how we operate, and also where we need any potential law to be changed or introduced, it will be handled as quickly as possible. From the taxpayers, we also believe that as we provide convenience and transparency, they'll come out and declare what is due and pay accordingly, so that they don't use the court process to delay tax payment. And for us as staff of FIRS, we'll continue to be courteous to all taxpayers. We'll continue to show our expertise in the area of tax administration. And our focus is not to charge people more tax than is due. And in cases whereby we see a client has overpaid, we have an effective refund mechanism to ensure that those taxes are paid back.
Still talking about roads, sir. In achieving what the service achieved in 2017 and in prior years, technology has played a very vital role. And in these last 2 days, so much has also been said about the pivotal role of technology. What are the new frontiers that you are looking at in the area of technology in 2018?
Well, in terms of new areas, I think what we have introduced so far is more than adequate. What we have introduced, the number one, ease of tax payments. Now you can pay your taxes anywhere in the world at any point in time, 24/7. You can download your receipts by yourself, confirm those receipts to ensure that government has received that money. And for those who have withholding tax credit notes, they don't have to wait for a manual credit note receipt. You can equally download it. And the system will also allow taxpayers to confirm within 45 days maximum whether the withholding tax deducted from them has been remitted on their behalf to government. So with all those things in place, I would want Nigerians to first of all benefit from those innovations before we start trying to use new things.
London, New York or Lagos, business or holiday, home or office, you can now carry out your tax transactions from anywhere in the world. You can now file all your tax returns, pay online, get a receipt and even process your tax clearance certificate from anywhere in the world online and in real time. All you need to do is log on to www.firs.gov.ng and click on e-services and be introduced to the world of innovation, convenience and transparency from the FIRS. You can also pay stamp duty as you register a new company with the CAC or for other transactions that require stamp duty payment online. You can also file your withholding tax returns and determine the withholding tax deducted from you is in government coffers so that you can get your receipt within 45 days as long as the deduction has been remitted. Yes, all of this and more online at www.firs.gov.ng/e-services. FIRS, making tax administration as easy as ABC. Please note that all FIRS services are free of charge. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service. It pays to pay your tax.
On June 29, 2017, the Vice President, who was then acting as the President, signed into law the Voluntary Access and Income Declaration Scheme Executive Order, and it effectively took off on July 1st. 7 months ago, actually. Give us a progress report.
Well, people like to get progress reports, but the key issue, I think, is that the progress reports that we may give in February or March might be more relevant because people who believe they still have a month or two to go have not really followed through. But we have got a lot of requests. We have got, in terms of value, I can tell you, it's still minimal, but we have got in excess of 20 billion.
That's a lot of money.
Well, based on what we're expecting, the budget for that is in the region of 305 billion naira. So when we're talking about 20 billion, it's a far cry. But also, we believe that a lot of individuals who this is also geared towards are a bit, they're still waiting, thinking they still have a bit more time. And that revenue will go to the state governments. But at the same time, we're working with the state government, and we hope by the end of February, we'll be able to have a more realistic projection and figures as to what has happened in the last 8 months.
We know that you run a taxpayer-friendly system, and that VAT is not about catching the thief. But for the benefit of those who may not want to heed the call, at the end of the road, at the end of March 31st, 2018 to be precise, when the window closes, what will happen?
Well, you can be friendly, but if the other side is not being friendly, it gets to the point that you have to change your style. And there are laws on our books, and so basically we'll follow the laws, we'll prosecute, we'll distrain, and we'll use all means within the law to make sure that those taxes are paid.
At one of the several workshops for consultants, tax consultants, advising persons who want to participate in VAT, one or two people raised a point about the FRS taxing properties, and you debunked it. For the benefit of our viewers today, exactly what is happening? Are you taxing properties?
No, we're not taxing property.
What are you doing?
Let me try and explain in very simple terms. In SITA, there's a regulation that says that if you don't file your annual returns, and we are going to use a best of judgment to come up with a tax assessment, we look at your turnover, and then we take 20% of your turnover as potential profit.
Yes.
And we tax it at 30%. So we have corporate organizations that own properties across Nigeria that have never filed any tax returns. And I'll demonstrate it with a simple example. If your company is called ABC Limited, you've never filed any tax return, and we found out that you have an office valued at 100 million. That tells me that 100 million worth of turnover has gone through your accounts. But you've never filed any tax return, never paid any tax. So I'll take out of that 100 million, 20%, which is 20 million, and assume that the profit on that 100 million at 30%. So you'll pay tax of 6.6 million.
That 20 million.
Exactly. I'll tax that 30%. So basically, based on the assets that you have, we're now deriving the tax that you should pay. At the state level, a lot of states look at your expenditure profile. I mean, your dress and what you're wearing is worth 1 million naira. But yet you tell the state agency that all you earn is 100,000 a year. So the question is that how could you buy your watch? How do you buy your suit? How did you buy your designer shoes? So somebody is not being truthful. So it's similar to what we call the expenditure profile basis, but these are physical structures that have been built at a certain amount of money, but yet the corporate organization has not filed and claims that it has no business and no tax. So it's following the law. So it's not property tax, it is CETA, and we're using that basis to estimate tax due to government.
There's no property tax in place.
No property
It's
tax.
just looking at the assets of the company.
That's right.
Okay. Now, still talking about VATs, we also understand that at the end of the grace period, that those who come forward will get a clearance certificate, VATs clearance certificate.
That's right.
If I think my hands are clean, talking about a corporate organization, if we think that our company is doing well and we have TCC, do we still need the VATs tax clearance?
If you've already filed your returns and your company is doing well, then you don't have to apply under VATs.
It's not as if people will from
No,
March
no,
or from April begin to ask people for VATs clearance certificate.
If you've got a corporate tax clearance certificate, that automatically tells anyone that you're tax compliant.
In what ways are you collaborating with the states?
Well, if you notice, this is our annual retreat, management retreat. We had members of the Joint Tax Board. We had representatives from a few states. I know we had from the FCT, Internal Revenue Service. We had from Ogun State. We had, I believe, from Abia State and a few other states. We had about 6 state chairmen to listen to what we're doing and also to take home some ideas. And of course, the Executive Secretary of the Joint Tax Board was present. And he can also inform other states through the JTB what we're doing, our strategies, and they can also adopt those strategies.
But people talk about fiscal federalism, about independence of states and all that. How do you marry that argument with the cooperation that we are experiencing now?
No, there's no harm in exchanging ideas. They have the constitutional independence. We're not collecting their taxes. Even the taxes that they collect are different from ours. But we're sharing a platform where we can share knowledge with them. And of course, at no charge.
We introduced you at the beginning as Executive Chairman FRS, Chairman Joint Tax Board. You just spoke now about cooperation with the states. You are also first Nigerian to become Chairman of ATAF. What does Nigeria gain from belonging to organizations like ATAF?
Well, ATAF basically was created to promote tax administration in Africa. So, in comparing experiences with different African countries, setting up training programs for tax administrators, Nigeria has a lot to benefit. First of all, they can learn from other African countries. They can also attend training programs. And one major aspect for tax administration is capacity. You cannot be an effective tax administrator if you don't have capacity. The world is changing to the point that what a consultant or a taxpayer will call tax planning sometimes is basically, I'll call it tax evasion. So if you don't understand the law, you can't analyze financial situations, then there's no way you can be an effective tax administrator. So that is what ATAF does. ATAF is involved in training, is involved in exchange of ideas and experiences. So Nigeria stands to benefit quite a lot. And we also can let other smaller countries benefit from our own experience.
Is that what also goes with your relationship with bodies like the OECD?
Yes, we're also members and we also benefit from OECD. They also have training programs. When you're in an area like tax is a global aspect that you can't sit in your country alone and expect to maximize the tax revenue that will lead to development. It is clear that any country, either developing, needs tax revenue to move forward. So basically, we have to be part of that global system to make sure we maximize and get the best and full potential of revenue to help develop Nigeria.
And that reminds us, at the various workshops on VATS, on the Voluntary Access and Income Generation Scheme, some of the paper presenters have been, quote unquote, harassing people with the fact that with this automatic exchange of information, that the taxman knows much more than you used to know. What kind of information is at your disposal now that automatic exchange of information is on ground?
Well, let me just put it this way.
What do I stand to fear?
Let me just put it this way. A lot of information is available.
Give us a glimpse.
Like you said, free exchange of information.
Yes.
You have access to information if you're a Nigerian and you own property abroad.
Yeah.
And you collect rent abroad and you haven't declared that rent as part of your income. We have access to things you even have locally. Even if you have vehicles that are registered, you have businesses where you have substantial shares, you have properties. So even locally, we have access to that information. And of course, we have access to your bank details.
If I have property in England or in France, I'm supposed to be paying taxes on that property in that country. What's your business?
Let me explain. You see, there are different types of taxes. If you have property in France and there's a property tax, then you pay your property tax to the French government.
Yes.
But if you rent out that property
Yes.
to an individual, and that individual pays you rent, because you reside in Nigeria and you use that money wherever, you have to declare it in your tax form in Nigeria and pay tax on that rent to the Nigerian government.
What if I pay tax on that rent in France?
You paid it to the wrong place. You're not a resident of France. You're a resident of Nigeria. And because you're a resident of Nigeria, you must have made your income from Nigeria to buy that property in France. Yes, I mean, I'm sure if you're a resident of Nigeria and have a property in France, you didn't work in France because you don't reside there. You don't have documents that will allow you to start working in France. So how do you buy the property? So it's logical that you got your revenue or your funds from Nigeria, so you should pay back to the same country where you reside, where that money originally came from.
You were recently elected into a United Nations body of experts on tax matters. Tell us what that is all about.
Well, basically, the United Nations looks at issues that border on further development of economies in all nations that belong to the United Nations. And one clear aspect of this is in the area of taxation. It is not new to us that a lot of nations are losing a lot of money through transfer pricing. In terms of estimates, the OECD has put the estimate at over $150 billion per year. And countries that are developing are the first countries to be hit by this. And those are the countries that need most of the money, most of the revenue. So when businesses go to operate in that country, do not pay taxes to that country, basically they're just exploiting that nation. So the committee looks at best practices, looks at how developing countries can benefit from tax revenue. And among the 25 of us, we are working on behalf of the United Nations. But at the same time, we're trying to ensure that there's a fair playing field for all countries, both developed and developing.
Dispute resolution is one of the canals of good tax administration. We used to have body of appeal commissioners, we used to have VAT tribunal, VAT tribunal, and then the tax appeal tribunal came on board 2007, 2008. But we've not heard from that sector for quite some time. What is the status of the tax appeal tribunal right now?
Well, the tax appeal tribunal basically is handled through the Minister of Finance. So speaking maybe on behalf of the minister, I can assure you that she's making plans to appoint new commissioners. And I think before the end of the first quarter of 2018, you'll have a new set of tax appeal commissioners. So that will continue functioning.
Okay, the TAT is not under the control of the FRS.
No, it's not.
It's an independent body.
Independent body that will give a fair review of tax matters that can either be in favor of the tax administrator or in favor of the taxpayer.
That's very comforting. That's very comforting. Now, you created a whole directorate for enforcement. What is the role of enforcement in what you do? And how has the creation of that department helped?
Well, after you have dialogue, you have exchanged information, you have shown them the basis of your tax assessment, they have not been able to provide evidence to support their own position. You have written various correspondence to let them know that their objection is no longer valid, then it has to go to enforcement. And enforcement basically plays a very important role. And some people might call it consequence. You see, when there's no consequence for your action, people will do whatever they want. The enforcement is a consequence of you not paying your taxes. And so we needed someone high up, have a director who's in charge of enforcement, and other very well prepared individuals, some lawyers who head the enforcement department, and they go and carry out the enforcement exercise. And in terms of money, or in terms of numbers, I think over the last 12 months, we have been able to enforce close to 1,000 corporate organizations, and they've all paid. Well, when I say they've all paid, they've either come up with an instrumental payment plan, or they've paid the outstanding taxes. And to the glory of God, we have not been found wrong, meaning that we have not enforced any of those corporate organizations wrongly.
Because enforcement comes at the end of the road,
At the end of the day.
when the taxpayer has failed to comply with all the necessary steps. Okay. A close scrutiny of the performance record that you presented. Yes, 4 trillion was big, but we also noticed that collection in the area of stamp duty went up. We haven't seen that for VAT, for value added tax. What are your strategies going into 2018 towards upping the ante?
VAT went up. VAT went up by 17%.
Oh, that's that, yeah.
Exactly. You know,
Are you satisfied with that?
no, well, we still think we can do better. We still think we can do better in all taxes. But it is a slow, I won't say slow, but it's a gradual process. Like I had said before, there are a number of states and local governments that do not remit withholding tax, do not remit VAT. And so it sometimes gets to the point where we have to call on enforcement for them to take action. Because tax is no respecter of person or organization. It is something that we do on behalf of the nation, on behalf of all the people. So no individual, no corporate organization can put itself above the interest of the people.
We are coasting home. Taxation revolves around people. You collect taxes from the living. So what's your message to taxpayers going forward into 2018? What do you have to
My
say?
message is clear. You only pay tax when you derive an income or you have make a profit. And it's just a little percentage to help those who are in need. And in making that profit, you rely on government to provide security, you rely on government to provide infrastructure, you rely on government to create a conducive environment for your business. So you have to pay back to government. So government can continue to provide all those resources. Because without those resources, without the infrastructure, you can't make profit. Without security, you can't go out. You know, so you have to keep on paying a little back to government. And government also has a responsibility to look after the needy, both at the federal and the state levels. So we also have to be our brother's keeper. And part of that tax is used to be our brother's keeper. So I just simply say, we have to join hands together. We have to continue to build Nigeria, to make Nigeria of our dreams. You go to the airport and the planes are full of people, some going on holiday to spend money in other people's countries. We're all proud Nigerians. But what is lacking is the infrastructure, the entertainment, the venues that they have. Let's build Nigeria for Nigerians and for those who want to come and visit us. Let them now come for conferences. Let them now come for entertainment. Let them now come and see the beauty of Nigeria.
Every day, my people they for work. Some they do office work. Some get it them own business. So all of them want good road, constant power for better life. Whether now office work, oh yeah, pay your tax. Whether now your own business, oh pay your tax. If you want a better life, oh pay your tax. Now your civic responsibility, pay your tax. Better soup, now money cook am. Oh yes. Nothing goes for nothing, my brother. If you want potable water, security and hospital for make life jolly.
That's right. Good roads, good hospitals, portable water, adequate security all come from taxpayers' money. Play your part in making Nigeria great. Everybody, small scale, big companies, entrepreneurs, do the right thing. Pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FRSC.
Well, viewers, this is where we drop the anchor on today's episode of Tax Matters. We thank you most sincerely for watching. We enjoy you to go out there and do your duty to our country. Nigeria is our own. Have a blessed week ahead.